Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Susan Marra with Dr. Marra's Medical Minutes. And today we're going to talk about the role that epigenetics plays in the development of complex chronic illness. So, epigenetics refers to the phenomenon of the way in which the environment interacts with the genome. You know that a cell has a nucleus, and inside the nucleus, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes, and on the chromosomes are genes. And those genes are responsible for you and for all of the metabolic pathways that take place in your body. What we believe happens in mycotoxin illness, probably COVID, and tick-borne illness is these organisms are stealth pathogens. Stealth meaning sort of under the radar. And they have a proclivity for entering the cell through the membrane and then going into the nucleus of the cell. The nucleus of the cell is obviously super important because that's where your genes are. And so what happens is these toxins like, tick-borne illness, mycotoxin illness, plastics, glyphosate, probably EMF, these things all affect your genome in such a way that they turn on and off certain genes, which is why we see a higher rate of breast cancer in tick-borne illness than we would expect. It's quite likely that the spirochete is influencing the genetic expression of the genes that are involved in breast cancer. And as a result of that, those oncogenes get turned on, and then, the patient develops cancer. Now, it's obviously way more complicated than that. And I'm simplifying it because it's not worth the tedium, going through the tedium, but epigenetic phenomenon is very common. It's the way in which a being, not just human beings, animals, plants, interacts with their environment. And then the epigenetic influences largely govern the genetic expression that then occurs. Sometimes these genetic expressions are beneficial and sometimes they're not. Obviously, cancer is not beneficial. This is a particular area of interest of mine. I've always been interested in epigenetics. And it's also the reason why looking at somebody's genome is not enough. And I realized that early on in 2018 when I became certified in nutrigenomics. And people, we would figure out their genome, are they histamine sensitive? Do they have poor detox pathways? Are their calcium ion channels abnormal? And so I would see all of these genetic SNPs, and yet the patient didn't express them. And so what I believe was going on is that there was not an epigenetic phenomenon affecting those genes. It may have been affecting another set of genes, but the genes that I was looking at, it didn't necessarily correlate with the symptomatology of the patient. And so it forced me to reconsider, okay, what is going on here? Why am I, carefully mapping out this genome? You can do it with Intellect's DNA, you can do it with nutrigenomics. I mean, there's hundreds of companies that do this now. And basically what those tests tell you is your genetic potential. What is your genetic potential? It could be this, it could be that. And that genetic potential is largely influenced by the environment. And the environment takes takes hold by way of epigenetics. And so I think that the study of epigenetics is a far more useful and important way of looking at things than to just look at the genome. The genome just says, yes, you have this, no, you don't have this. It doesn't tell you whether or not it's been expressed, or if the genes have been turned on, or if they're modified, or whatever. So I hope you found this information useful, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.